Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we begin our lesson number 6, sound plurals. Let's get started. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So we begin with talking about English sound plurals, and then we will talk about the Arabic equivalent. So when we say what is a sound plural in English, we mean that the word retains its original form. So for example, book, in order to make it a plural, you're just going to add the word s to it. So the original word book remains intact. Similarly, pen, you're just adding this s. So the word remains intact, pen. This is called sound plural because the word itself remains sound or intact. We're only adding a prefix of s to make it plural. Similarly, in Arabic, there's a similar concept of plurals. So the first kind is called sound plural, the same one that we discussed before in English. And the way it is done is by adding waw and noon to the word. So for example, if you look at Muslim, to make it plural, you would add a waw and a noon. So it would become Muslimun. This word, tayyib, in order to make it a sound masculine plural, you would say tayyibun. Now, females are formed in a different fashion. We will talk about that later. Right now, we're talking about the masculine plural. Sound masculine plural is where you would be adding this una prefix at the end of it. The second kind of plurals that we will be discussing today is called a broken plural. Now, again, let's take the English example first. For example, if we say man and we want to make it plural, notice how the A changes to an E, right? So the woman over here, the A changes to a E. If you look at the word goose, the two O's over here change to E's. So this shows that the structure of the word has somewhat changed, right? In order to make the plural. It's not the same letters. It's not intact. This is called a broken plural. Similarly, in Arabic, it's a similar concept called broken plural. So if you look at the word khair, which means good, if you make it a plural, it becomes khiyar. So basically, there is an alif which has been added. And when I said khair, there was a fatha on top of the kha. There was a fatha, but noticed here, there's a kasra. So there were some changes that the word underwent to make it a broken plural. Okay, so we're going to be talking about these two kinds today. And let's make another point here. In Arabic, we have a lesson for adjectives later, but I just want to get the discussion started. So in English, the adjective comes before the word. So for example, good man or good men. The adjectives, this is the adjective in circle, it comes before. But in Arabic, the adjective comes after. So if I want to say good Muslims, I would say singular, in the singular form, I would say Muslimun tayyibun, right? So this is singular to describe a good Muslim, right? Now, in English, notice how the good, it has not changed. Even though we're talking about men, which is plural, we used in adjectives, in English, there's no plural form. You still use good. Good man, good men. But in Arabic, you have to make the adjective plural also. So in this case, if you want to make it plural, the good men over here, in Arabic, it would be Muslimuna tayyibuna. Okay, so you see, you have to make the adjective also plural. Adjective also plural in Arabic. All right, so we're going to now talk about this in more details. So as we discussed, there are two kinds of plurals, regular and broken. Within the regular plurals, we're going to talk about sound masculine plurals, which we just talked about. And we're also going to talk about how to make the sound feminine plurals. Okay, now broken plurals will be covered in a separate lesson. So in Arabic, plural is called jama'un. Okay, so jama'un salimun. This means sound. The one we discussed, it's a sound plural. Jama'un taksirun. Taksir means broken. So the broken plural. So our example of the sound plural is where the word has remained intact. Only the prefix has been added. So mudarrisuna. So the una has been added. In the jama'un taksir, what happened is the structure of the word changed. For example, talibun means one student. If you make it plural, it's tulabun. Notice how there's a fatha, there's a dhamma on the first letter. Here there's a fatha. Notice how the lam has been doubled with a shadda. Right? Notice how there's an alif and how there is a fatha on top of the lam. Here there is a kasra. So the word has underwent changes. Similarly, as you noticed here, qalamun, pen, the plural is aqlam. It has underwent changes. So these are broken plurals to be covered in a future lesson, inshallah. We talked about examples of the sound masculine plural. We covered this word already. Now, in order to make it plural for a feminine, we will look at this in more detail in the upcoming slides, how to form this for feminine plurals, sound feminine plurals. What prefix is added, we will study this in detail in a couple of slides later. Now, some nouns have multiple plural forms. It's not a lot. There's a handful of nouns that will have multiple plurals. And here's a very common one that you should learn. Akhun means brother in Arabic, brother. And two plurals are used. One is ikhwan and the other is ikhwatun. So I know we studied in a previous lesson that ta marbuta is a sign of usually feminine gender. But in this case, this is one of the exceptions we also talked about in the last lesson. So this is one of those exceptions. Even though it has a ta marbuta at the end, this is a masculine word. Why? Because the meaning is masculine. Okay, so continuing our discussion with masculine plurals, it's just showing you another chart format of the same thing that we have already discussed in the last slide. It's covering the same information again, just in a different format. Okay, so once again, the sound plural is either masculine or feminine. In order to make it masculine, we are adding the una ending. Muslimun, muslimuna, una. Remember, this una is referring to male and it's referring to plurals. And it's referring to human plurals. Human plurals. Okay. So again, mudarris means teacher. If you want to say the male teachers, you would say mudarrisun. So I just said that the nouns and adjectives for masculine plurals has to be human beings. So if you're looking at that una over here, it has to be humans. We're talking about humans, teacher, employee, director. Right? So if it's talking about an object, for example, pen is an object that's masculine. to make this plural, you're not going to say qalamuna. That is incorrect. For masculine plurals that are objects, non-human, you would use a broken plural that we talked about. Now, there are patterns of broken plurals that we will study in future lessons so that they're easier for you to identify when you come across them in the Quran. Okay, this is a future lesson. So here, teacher, we've already discussed, employee, mu'azzaf, and the plural is mu'azzafuna. Director, mudirun, and the plural is mudiruna. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. You can also remember the sound and the two letters, una, for masculine, human plurals. So these are present participles, which we study in a future lesson. But what, just the gist of what is a present participle is it involves some action that is involved. So there is a doer, which is doing an action. So for example, in English, the equivalent would be like with an ing, sitting, standing, going, coming, telling. All these kind of words in Arabic, they all take the same una plural that we have talked about, again, for masculine. So jalisun, jalisuna. Waqifun, standing, waqifuna. Dhahibun, going, dhahibuna. Qadimun, coming, qadimuna. Traveling, musafirun, plural, masculine. Travelers would be musafirun. All right. Now we will study adjectives in much further detail down the line, but just to give you an example, this is a very common form of an adjective with a ya in it, in this form, fa'il. This is the pattern where the ya is denoting kasir over here. Most of these have the ya in there, right? This is showing a form of adjective that is very commonly used. See, all of this have the same pattern. Kathirun, jamilun, kabirun, saghirun, qasirun, tawilun. So these are all adjectives. And the plural is formed in a similar fashion that we have discussed with this prefix. All right. All right. Now we are going to talk about case endings for plurals. So before we do that, I would like to quickly review the case endings that we have studied before. Case endings are also called i'rab, and in English we also call them declination. Right here. All right, so let's look at the marfu case. Marfu'un, we said it always has a dhamma in it. It could be a tanween dhamma or a single dhamma. It's indicative of marfu'un. So in this case, Dhahaba Muhammadun ila suqi. Muhammad is the subject of the verb, of this verb. Dhahaba, going. He went. So who went? Muhammad went. That's why it is in a marfu case. Okay, compare that with here. Muhammad is not a subject here. Here, because ra'aytu means I saw, so I am the subject here. So, and this is the object. So how do you identify object? We will study this in the future, but basically if you answer the question what, if there's a verb in the sentence, and if you answer the question what, you're going to get the object. So ra'aytu, I saw what? I saw Muhammad. I saw Muhammad. So this is the object. So the object is denoted by the single fatha or double fatha, as we can see here. So this is in what state is it? It is in mansoob state. In English, called the accusative case. Accusative case represented by the fatha. Compare that to ala Muhammadin here, Muhammadan, and here Muhammadin. It takes a kasra or a double kasra. Why? Because a preposition has come before this word. Ala means on, and we will cover many prepositions in a future lesson. But for now, you're just trying to understand that a preposition preceding a noun can change the case ending of of the word after it. So here, because of the preposition, it changed the case ending over here of Muhammad to Muhammadin. This is called majroor. Now it is in a majroor state. Okay. So again, another example, as-sa'atu ala sariri. This is the watch is on, ala is on, it's a preposition. The couch or on the bed, again, denoted by a majroor status with the kasra. Look at this. هذا كتاب محمد. This is the book of Muhammad. I hope you realize that this is an idafa construction that we have studied before, book of Muhammad. And we said that there are two terms of an idafa. The first term is called mudaf, and the second term over here is called mudaf ilayhi. And the second term is always bears a kasra. Kasra at-tanween kasra, which is why Kitabu Muhammadin. And this is representing a majroor case. We discussed all of this in prior lesson. I just wanted to review it prior to discussing the case ending of plurals. Okay, now we discuss the sound masculine plural case endings. Okay, so before we just studied the nominative case or the marfu case with the una. So how do you make genitive case, which is majroor? How do you make majroor of a plural, masculine plural? Very simple. Instead of the waw, you make it ya. Okay, so see how this is different from what we just saw. In this case, it was Allah came before the word Muhammad. Allah was a preposition. It put a kasra at the end of it. It put a kasra. Versus look here. The min is a preposition. The min is also a preposition. It can mean from, or here it means among. I am, ana minal muslimin. So because a preposition preceded this word, Muslims, plural, masculine, the Muslims, because this preposition preceded it, this word is supposed to be in majroor case, in majroor case. So how do we show the majroor? It was muslimuna, it has become muslimina. So only change from the waw is that it became a ya. This waw changed to a ya. So mudarrisuna is marfu and mudarrisina is majroor case. Okay, so change was denoted by a ya instead of the waw. So the question arises then, how do you do the mansub case of Muslim? So we looked at Muslimun, plural marfu'un is muslimuna. So how do we discuss majroor in the last slide with a ya? So how do you make mansub? It's exactly the same. So you have to learn these two things together, right? Mansub case is exactly the same as the majroor case. They are both going to be represented by this ya. So muslimina, muslimina, they're equal, exactly the same. So mu'minun, the marfu is mu'minun, and the majroor and mansub are mu'minina. Kafirun, marfu'un is kafirun, and majroor and mansub are same. Kafirin. So sabirun, sabirun, sabirin, and sabirin with the ya here. So amilun, amilun is marfu, and the mansub and the majroor are amilin and amilin. So that is the format. Okay, so now let's look at this Quranic verse. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. How beautiful is this word, this verse over here. I hope you recognize that this is an idafa because it is Lord of the worlds. Rab is Lord and Alameen means worlds, plural. So the singular is alam to mean world. And to make it plural, you would say alamun. Alamun. This is marfu case, but because this is second term of an idafa, it is always in majroor case. Majroor case, and how do we know? Because this is why there is a ya here. Instead of the waw, there is a ya here. Rabbil Alameen. This is the second term of the idafa. This is the first term of the idafa, which is a possessive construction we studied in the last class. Alim is very similar to this word, but it has a kasra. I think you're all familiar with this word, scholar. And this word is what is in this verse is with a fatha. So more examples given here. So if I say kharaja al-muslimuna, this is a verb. Kharaja is a verb. So who went out? Kharaja means going out. The mudarrisuna, the teachers went out. So teachers is marfu. It's the subject of this verb. It's the subject of this verb. That's why it has marfu with a waw. Let's look at mansub. So ra'aytu, I saw. I saw what? I saw the teachers. So the teachers is the object. So object is always in mansub case. How do you show mansub? Is with this ya. Al-mudarrisina. Majroor. Dhahabtu ilal mudarrisina. I went to the teachers, right? So here, why is this in majroor state? Because of the ila. Ila is a preposition. We said if a preposition precedes a word, it puts it in the majroor case. So more examples. Dhahaba al-muhandisuna ila makatibihim. This is subject. So it's marfu, it's engineers. So again, this is object. Ra'aytu al-fallahina. So I saw the farmers. So this is object. That's why it's in mansub state. Hadhihi buyutul mudarrisin. So this is plural. Buyut is plural. Houses of the teacher. Singular is bayt and plural is buyut. I hope you realize this is an idafa construction. Houses of the teachers. So al-mudarrisina is majroor. Why? Because it is the second term of the idafa. It is mudaf ilayhi. Hazihi buyutul mudarrisina. This is mudaf. The first term is mudaf. And the second term is mudaf ilayhi, which is why it is majroor. Now we discuss feminine plurals. So we said this is a feminine word, muslimatun, female Muslim. How do you make it plural? You add an alif and you add the ta maftuha. This is the ta maftuha. And this is the ta marbuta. So you put an alif and you put a ta maftuha. Muhandisatun, how do you make it plural? Muhandisatun. You put this alif and you put this ta maftuha. So pretty straightforward. Again, it's identified with these two prefixes at the end. So again, female teachers, mudarrisatun. Now, remember earlier we talked about how for masculine words, if it's an object and not a human, we don't do the una, right? We don't do the standard sound plural. We do broken plural. We said like kalamun, kalamun. We said we don't do kalamuna, that's incorrect. But for female objects, this is a female object, you can make a sound feminine plural. So the singular is jami'atun. Jami'atun is singular. So it does form into the sound feminine pattern with the alif and a ta. Ta maftuha. This is called ta maftuha and this is called ta marbuta. You switch that to this. So this is universities, plural. Sound, feminine, plural. And why do you call it sound? Because notice this part has not changed. The original word has remained intact. More examples. So mudarrisatun, mudarrisatun, female teachers. Talibatun, single student, female student. Talibatun are female students, right? Tawilatun is table. This is plural tawilatun. Okay, plural. It's an object, female object, but it takes a similar sound, feminine, plural. Okay, another word for the table that as used in the Quran is ma'idatun. So more examples for you to look at over here that are female, examples of female plurals that are formed by adding this prefix at the end. So president in Arabic is called Ra'is. If you add this ta marbuta, it becomes a female president. And some of these are objects that are female. For example, maktabatun is library, hukumatun is government. These are female objects. Okay, now there are certain plurals which are irregular. So here, bintun is singular, but it doesn't have the regular ta marbuta that we are used to, right? So here the spelling rule is a little bit different. So bintun is a girl and its plural is banatun. Same here, ukhtun, sister, plural is akhawatun. Okay, so I would suggest you memorize these vocabs, including the plurals, because they're very commonly used in the language. So fatatun is a young girl, and its plural is fatayatun. So these are spelled a little bit differently than how we have seen the other words. Now, adjectives, feminine adjectives also take this sound feminine plural. So jadidatun is new, it's jadidatun. Jalisatun is sitting, the plural is jalisatun. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about cases. We talked about the case endings for masculine plurals. Now let's talk about the case endings for feminine plurals. So again, this is a plural word, samawatun, very frequently used in the Quran to refer to the heavens. It's a plural word. And if you see a dhamma, it is marfu'un. Okay. Now, what about the mansub case and the majroor case? Remember, for masculine sound plurals, we said it was represented by a ya and a noon, right? It was ina. So in sound feminine plurals, how is the mansub and the majroor? They're both the same. These are both the same. They look the same. They're going to be represented with a kasra, tanween kasra or a single kasra. So this one is expected because it's majroor and you are expecting it to have a kasra. This is the one that is different. It's mansub, so you're expecting it to have a fatha here, but it doesn't have a fatha. It has a kasra. So sound feminine plural case ending for mansub case is a little bit different. You don't see the fatha, you see kasra. So how do you remember that? Maybe you can think of something fun to remember. For example, what worked for me is, you think of feminine, plural, usually they are very submissive, and submissive, they're bending. So it's represented by this kasra. They are not going to carry a fatha on top because they tend to be very submissive. And humble, so they take kasra. Even though they're in the mansub case, they don't carry a fatha on top, they always carry kasra. So this might be some fun way for you to remember this exception. So if you look here, khalaqa means create, it's a verb. So Allah is the subject here, subject of this verb. That's why it's in marfu case, khalaqallahu. So Allah created what? Answer this question, what? It will give you the object. So Allah created the heavens and the earth. So these are both objects. They're both objects. So how do you represent objects? In mansub, we reviewed it earlier. Objects are always in mansub state. So this word is mansub and this word is mansub. So Allah created the heavens and the earth. This is heavens and this is earth. They're both mansub. But so here mansub is represented by a fatha. But why is there no fatha here? It's a kasra here, samawat. Why? Because it's a feminine sound, feminine plural case ending. In the mansub case works a bit differently. It's an exception. It ends with a kasra. So khalaqallahu samawati wal arda. This behaves normally. This behaves on the exception case. So here are more examples. So this is the first case is pretty a straightforward case, which is mufrad, which means singular case. Mufrad means singular. The singular case is straightforward. Marfu'un is muslimun, mansubun is musliman, majrurun is muslimin. For feminine, muslimatun, muslimatan, and muslimatin is the majrur case. Okay, so dual will be covered in a future lesson. So now we're going to do the plural, which is jam'un. So the sound endings, salimun. So it is muslimun is the marfu case. For mansub case, we said it takes a ya, muslimin. And then the majrur case is also the same. So these two cases are the same. So for the female, it's muslimatun, this is marfu'un. And these two cases are similar. Muslimatin, muslimatin. They both end with a kasra. The mansub case and the majrur case end with a kasra. So let's look at this beautiful verse here. Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. So here we will study inna in a future lesson. Inna means surely, and it has some grammatical effect on the word coming after it. So for now, we just want to know, we will study it in detail in the future, but for now, all you need to know is that the word after inna is always mansub, So this is why there is a fatha on top of the Allah, inna Allaha, okay? That's why there's a fatha on top of Allah. And ma'as sabirin, ma'a is a preposition, which means with. And this word is majroor because a preposition preceded it. So instead of the waw here, instead of sabiruna, you're looking at sabirina with a ya. So if you look at this, innal muslimina wal muslimat. Again, I just said that when inna comes over here, this word should be in mansub state. Mansub. So it should be this word, and there's a wa here, which means and. So Muslims and the Muslim female. So it's referring to both. So they're both mansub. They're both mansub because they came after inna. So here, how is it mansub? Because it's a plural, it's shown by the ya, because this is a masculine plural. Muslimina, masculine plural, right? That's why it's represented. The mansub case is represented with the ya. Here, the mansub case, because it's a feminine sound plural, the mansub case, you are expecting it to have a fatha, but it won't have a fatha because it's an exception. So it will have a kasra. So once again, this is a review. Majroor and mansub are the same for the feminine case. So, and then in this example, mushrikatun is mushrikatun, marfu'un, and these two are the same. The mansub and the majroor case are the same. Mushrikatin, mushrikatin. Okay, one more example of inna. So when inna comes, this word, the word after it is supposed to be in mansub case. Here it's very visible that it's mansub with a fatha. But look at this word, inna talibati. This is supposed to be mansub, but it's not visible with a fatha because it's a plural, sound feminine plural, falls on the exception, always showing with a kasra. Inna talibati, indeed the female students are in the buses. Fi al-hafilat means bus. Fi is a preposition. So it makes the following word majroor. So this is majroor with a kasra on it. Again, another word with innal ikhwata. Here, it's very easy to recognize that this is in mansub state because of the inna. This is a broken plural we talked about earlier. So here, indeed, the brothers and sisters. So and, wow, sisters is also mansub because of the inna. But again, it is an exception. So it is shown with the kasra here. Fil baiti. Fi is a preposition, and this is majroor because a preposition preceding this noun made it in majroor case. So this is a review of what we studied today. The nominative case for masculine plural is with the prefix una is the nominative case. The genitive and the accusative case, which is this is the majroor, and this is the mansub case, are equal, and they both are shown by this ya. Similarly, for females, the marfu case is with the alif and ta, and it's marfu'un with the dhamma. And here in the majroor and the mansub case, it's the same. They're both represented by kasras. This one is the exception that we talked about. This one is the exception, the mansub case. And reviewing again, we said that only nouns and adjectives referring to masculine human beings have plurals. So mudarrisuna, but for objects, we don't do plural in this form. So for example, qalam, you don't say qalamuna, you're gonna say aqlam. But for females, even the objects take a sound feminine plural. So for example, this word sharikatun means companies. The singular is sharikatun. So, and then it takes a plural of this form with an alif and ta at the end. This is the plural. And we also talked about how the feminine and masculine plurals have one form for both the accusative and the genitive cases. So, mudarrisina and mudarrisatin. This is for both of mansub and majroor, and this is also for mansub and majroor. This is also for mansub and majroor. So here is a chart for you to practice on your own. I would suggest you look at how the word is, how the chart is completed for the word Muslim. You can skip the dual because that's a future lesson. You can look at how this Muslim is formed through all of these cases with the feminine, and then look at how it's formed in the plural cases, jama'un cases, and then you can try to do the same for this word, mu'minun. All right, so that's the end of this lesson. Hope that was beneficial. Jazakallahu khairan for attending. Inshallah, I will see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.